Hey everyone, welcome back to the hardware news recap for the week. In this one, we'll be talking about the Titan Ada prototype that has two 12-volt high power connectors on it. ASUS has an 800-watt RTX 5090 continuing on the high power consumption with the graphics card high power connector in the foot. That goes into the motherboard. The US government has shown an interest in buying 10% of Intel. Also, SoftBank says it's investing $2 billion into Intel. SoftBank also is a major holder of ARM. Concerns over Microsoft updates potentially killing SSDs, and also an RX 7400 slot-only power card, which is something that I think a lot of people have been waiting for. Not necessarily that card, but not having to pull power through a cable it's rare these days. Let's get into it. Before that, this video is brought to you by the Lianli LANQUIL 217. We recently reviewed the LANQUIL 217 on the channel and found that its thermal performance is overall competitive with other top cases. The LANQUIL 217 combines a set of larger 170mm front-mounted fans with more standard-sized internal case fans for high airflow. The front of the case offers the ability to rearrange the fans to offset them towards either the CPU or the GPU, with wood accents along the case to give it a unique look. Learn more about the Lianli LANQUIL 217 at the link in the description below. All right, first of all, quick update on the Black Market movie launch. Also, we'll be talking about some AI slop summaries. You love it, I love it, we all love it. AI slop, it's what we've all asked for. That's what the industry needs. And first of all, a huge thanks for the amazing support on it. The comments have been overwhelmingly supportive and positive, and that's been great for the team to read because we all worked really hard on that. And so it's great to see it go up, and we're happy to see that people liked it. Also, we have a bunch of unrelated secondary videos coming up that we shot on that trip. Like we, for example, did the tour of Yeston's factory showing how the waifus are made. So that'll be really fun. You'll have to, we'll see what YouTube does with that for monetization. We also have a full tour of Zhangge's repair shop showing how he helps save users' GPUs from landfills. Really feels a lot like what Louis Rossmann does, except it's video cards and it's in China. That place is awesome, so we'll have that video. We also have a video we shot with Lianli and Sparkle about Intel Arc GPUs for Sparkle and cases for Lianli. So that's what we're working on next. First though, time for the healthy serving of AI slop. So while looking at secondary coverage of this, we noticed some comically incorrect, I hope, AI summaries like Grok or what is the one Google does, Gemini? Grok or Gemini or whatever the bullshit AI tools are out there to summarize things. This is why you shouldn't trust them, okay? We've got some real examples. This, which was recapping our movie, says that the H-20 ban was lifted as a result of the $1 million dinner between Jensen and Trump, which is only partially correct. The H-20 was actually banned immediately following the $1 million dinner, and then after yet another meeting, it was unbanned. So this AI Grok or GPT or whatever summary hallucinated the sequence of events, and it forgot something really important, which is that Jensen, the first time, took Trump to a bad restaurant. It wasn't one of the better Denny's. It might have been a Waffle House. Maybe a fight broke out. The second time when it got unbanned, that's when Jensen put on his fancy jacket and took Trump to the flagship Denny's in San Francisco. I don't actually know if that's where they went, just to be clear, but I'm pretty sure. The evidence is there. So anyway, the summary screwed up that. And then it also says that the H100s cost $300,000 to $500,000 and that Taiwanese intermediaries get 20 to 30% as a fee. But literally none of these numbers appear anywhere in our movie. It's formatted like an AI chatbot summary. It's really wrong. It also gets a ton of things wrong about Zhangge's repair shop. Like when the summary says that he's in Jinnan, Jiangxi, which first of all is two different places, not one. And secondly, the closest one is 500 kilometers away from where he actually is. Also, he's not directly part of a black market, which we said, but he does work on RTX 5090s and RTX 4090s for customers, both of which are export controlled from the US's perspective, but again, not from China's perspective. These are legal things to buy there. His repair shop is important context for the movie of showing how this export controlled silicon is kept in circulation, just doing everyday business, fixing customers' broken devices, and even upgrading them to reduce the need of more heavily export controlled chips. Anyway, we have a full separate video coming up with him featuring his shop and more discussion. It is super cool. Brother John has an awesome shop and his team does a lot to keep hardware alive, so we're excited to post that in a couple days. I just pointed this out because the movie was in 2 languages, and so I think some of the secondary reporting, there's potential for not only 4 layers of translation there, but then also a 5th layer of translation, which is our modern AI slop chatbots trying to summarize 2 languages. So I think that's where some of the inaccuracies in the secondary coverage are coming from, because it's like English to Chinese to English to Chinese to English to chatbot. That's what we're going through. Anyway, if you want a full accurate summary of our video, so we've got the written version of it coming up. Jimmy is working on that. He's converting the whole thing into text. We got to figure out how to condense that. And then the timeline is already up. That was one of our backer goals for the sort of self-funding fundraiser Kickstarter thing we did. And that timeline is live on the website if you want to check it out. That includes the comprehensive list of US government bans, unbans, Silicon Company reactions. And we're also preparing to start shipping the backer rewards out. That's going to take us about 2 more weeks to finish sort of kitting everything. We have to get all the individual pieces, put them together in the warehouse. So they're going to be working on that for about 2 weeks from what I understand, they were telling me. And then we're going to start shipping them. So they will start shipping throughout September. We also just added a second wave to the orders on the store. That's listed on the store, so you'll see it. But that has dates of, I think it's like October 15th through November 31st or something. That's on the store page. So new orders or orders posted after we updated that store page, those will be in the second wave just due to the extremely high volume. And again, thank you for the support, it really helps us. Up next, I am buying thousands of USB keys to write the movie to them because that was one of our goals. And one thing I didn't think about was like, wait a minute, these are really large files. I got to figure out a cool high-tech solution. I think we have some cool solutions. So anyway, that'll be a fun separate video. But if you want to buy one of the backer tiers while it's still up on the store, they're going to be there for a couple more days at least, then you would also get one of the USB keys that we're distributing with the digital assets on them. So that's the digital backer rewards that are exclusive, plus the full copy of the movie itself. If you wanted the highest quality one, not the YouTube compressed one, we're going to distribute that so you can kind of keep your physical media if you prefer that. All right, let's get into the news. All right, we'll start the week's recap with some pure tech and hardware news. Then we'll get into some of the bigger stories like the potential sale of a relatively large percentage of Intel. But up first, friend of the channel and man whose parents put an 8 in his name when he was born. It's very uncommon, but Der Oct Hour, I believe is how you say it. He has an update to his RTX Titan Ada that he's not supposed to have, and it's another thing he's not supposed to have, which is the power cable for it. Mr. Oct, as we'll call him now, previously showed this card and its cooler design, which is actually familiar and cooler design to our prototype, but his is an unreleased Titan model. Ours was merely a 4090 or 4090 Ti of some kind, and so once again, damn it, Der Bauer, he has outdone us. There's something new that he's shown though. NVIDIA was planning to ship this with not one, but 2 12-volt high power connectors. It also came with a prototype adapter that converted 6 8-pin connectors into these 2 12-volt high power connectors, leading Der Bauer to surmise that the card may have been outfitted for 900 watts. Now this actually matches a rumor we had covered back in, it's probably like 2022 or something early, where there was a rumor going around about a potential 800 watt, I think it was, NVIDIA GPU. There was a 600 one, I think there was an 800 one as well. So this would match that. That 800 watt Ada GPU never materialized. It looks like though what Der Bauer has may have been it. Der Bauer also highlighted how the adapter allegedly carried a January 2022 label, which is over 9 months before the RTX 4090's October release date. As we all know, it takes about 9 months to make a baby, so this timeline makes sense because Jensen at that time still would have been working on baking up the Ada GPUs. We suspect one of the reasons NVIDIA never launched this card is because of the power consumption, and also because it would have had to include a fire extinguisher in every box. We would make use of it. We test a lot of NVIDIA GPUs here. Up next, some rumors of a Valve console release. Prominent leaker, sadly it's Bradley, spotted Geekbench scores for a device named Valve Fremont, which garnered a single-core score of 2412 and a multi-core score of 7451. As a note, Geekbench isn't the best for representing reality, but it gives us a starter. For reference, this would be roughly 109% and 77% higher than the original Steam Deck's equivalent scores. While the tweet wrote that Valve Fremont will be a, quote, TV-focused PC box console running SteamOS, end quote, interestingly, the Geekbench results showed that the system was using Windows 11 Pro. In terms of specs, Geekbench results indicate that Valve Fremont uses a custom 6-core 12-thread AMD processor at 3.2 GHz listed, and is apparently based on AMD's Hawk Point 2 architecture. It also reported that the processor has 16 megabytes of L3 cache, coupled with about 8 gigabytes of memory. Now this spec doesn't look final to us. Geekbench is sometimes inaccurate. Also, if it's pre-production product, then that would be subject to change. For its motherboard, Geekbench listed the board as Valve Fremont, which would corroborate, sadly it's Bradley's claim, that the system would use a custom solution. The leaker also stated that the case would be custom, and that it would come with an RX 7600 GPU. In terms of controllers, sadly it's Bradley said that it's, quote, expected to come with the IBEX gamepad leaked in the SteamVR driver files, alongside the ROY controllers for the Valve Deckard XR headset, end quote. The leaker concluded that, quote, we are likely to see Valve Fremont, IBEX, Deckard, and ROY all at once, end quote. And then if you don't remember, Deckard and ROY refer to the much rumored VR headset and VR controllers that Valve is supposedly working on. Now related to this, I remember, I don't know, 2013 or 2015 or 16, somewhere in there, I was at GDC covering Valve's then Steam machine that it was planning to launch. So we worked with CyberPower, a couple of the other SIs in the space, to cover their Steam machine planned devices. The secret back then was that not a single one of them had SteamOS on it. Not a single damn one or anything related to it. They were just computers. But the companies were basically like, hey, it's gonna be a Steam machine, do you wanna cover it? And when we talked it through, actually kind of at the last minute, if I remember correctly, Valve yanked that project, but the companies had invested all these resources in building these small custom boxes. And so the way it progressed was they said, as long as we said that these were supposed to be Steam machines and it was my theorizing, then that's fine. It's just the companies couldn't say it because Valve disallowed it because they killed the project or delayed it indefinitely. So anyway, it looks like that's maybe progressing. This might be related to the old Steam machines kind of coming back in a new way following the Steam Deck, which didn't exist back then, of course, which has had a successful SteamOS launch. All right, up next, Microsoft is in the news for Xbox, and surprisingly, it's not because they've killed it yet. Xbox President Sarah Bond previously stated that Xbox was working on I
am thrilled to share we've established a strategic multi-year partnership with AMD to co-engineer silicon across a portfolio of devices, including our next-generation Xbox consoles.
Xbox Gaming Devices and Ecosystem Vice President Jason Ronald recently went on the official Xbox podcast and elaborated that the next Xbox chips will feature neural rendering, stating,
"So together with AMD, we're designing dedicated silicon and hardware to enable the next generation of gaming experiences. And so that means we're investing deeply in the next generation of rendering technologies, such as neural rendering, which will bring a new level of fidelity to the quality of the games that you're having."
Capitalizing on the hype that is AI, he added,
"We're also investing in dedicated silicon to enable the next generation of AI capabilities that will be transformative in how you actually experience your gameplay. And also provides a new surface that developers can actually take advantage of and deliver new kinds of experiences that they've never been able to deliver before." And all of this actually even starts with this year with the Xbox Ally, because the Xbox Ally X has a dedicated NPU, which allows us to start experimenting and trying some of these AI-powered experiences well before we get to our next generation console.
Now, Microsoft somewhat recently revealed the Xbox Ally handhelds. We already showed that. And they also said that they'll launch on October 16th, though the company hasn't revealed pricing yet. There were some rumors of over $1,000 for the high-end model. All right, up next, a GPU. ASUS appears to be the first to get approval from NVIDIA to exceed the 600-watt power budget on an RTX 5090. So 5090 natively, it's 575 to 600 watts. 600 watts is the rated max of the 12-volt 2x6 and 12-volt high-power connector. There's additional power that can go through the PCIe slot, but ASUS has its own solution, which is also in a next to PCIe slot connector, and that is the previously reported on GCHPWR, or graphics card, I guess, high power, and that goes through the motherboard. That's rated for 1,000 watts. They've been showing it for a few years now, and this card, the Matrix 5090, has both the GC high power and the 12-volt high power, 12-volt 2x6 change if you prefer, connected to the card, and they can be connected simultaneously. And previously, the only way to really reasonably get over, well, approach this 800 watt number that ASUS is talking about would be to shunt mod, which we've done, or VBIOS mod or something like that. So this is the first natively supported higher power 5090. Well, at least of this capacity. So, ASUS's new Matrix RTX 5090 is the company's 30th anniversary card. It includes a red shroud and a backplate with a blower-looking fan cowling at the end. Although it's traditional triple axial, it looks like a blower. There's a fourth fan on the back, similar to the Astral 5090. And the announcement video also advertises liquid metal connecting the vapor chamber to the GPU die. This is what NVIDIA did with the Founders Edition 5090 as well. Hardware enthusiast Harukaze5719 tweeted some screenshots of the card, showing an incredibly dense PCB with one of the largest VRMs we've ever seen. The card uses ASUS's PCIe foot in addition to that power connector, and again, that is rated for 1,000 watts or so of power through the motherboard. We're mostly interested in this because we'd like to see the impact on the board thermals more than anything else. So I actually do kind of want to get this one in mostly for that purpose, to basically I really look at the power consumption and where the heat ends up landing for that. I think it would actually be a good use, like one of the rare really good use cases for a thermal camera, because you can mount the board, shoot it at the back if you've got a clear shot of it, and potentially see how it lights up. So that might be pretty cool, and then place thermocouples from there. So I kind of want to do that from an experimental standpoint. I don't know, it'd be the first ASUS product other than the Ally that we've worked on in a long time for review, but this one's pretty interesting. So next up, reports claiming that Microsoft is seemingly killing SSDs just ahead of the Windows 10 end-of-life date, but it's reportedly doing this with Windows 11 updates. Neowen reported on aggregated user statements detailing Windows 11 updates that are allegedly damaging or corrupting storage devices. The report states that the update causes drives to, quote, disappear, end quote, and renders them, quote, unreadable by the OS, end quote. The original user on Twitter reported on 21 drives tested with the affected updates. Following this, storage controller manufacturer Phison emailed a statement to Neowen. It says this, quote, Phison has recently been made aware of the industry-wide effects of the KB5063878 update and KB5062660 update on Windows 11 that potentially impacted several storage devices, including some supported by Phison. We'll interrupt the quote here briefly to say maybe pause your updates if you're worried about that. Now, Phison continued, quote, we understand the disruption this may have caused and promptly engaged industry stakeholders, end quote, and then they restate their commitment to devices and support, and they say they're going to provide updates as they become available. The original report claimed that sustained write cycles to some storage devices could trigger the failure. Now, currently there is one source for this. It's an enthusiast user on Twitter, from what I understand, with a lot of tested devices. Phison's comment shows that this is legitimate and a real concern, and they are aware of it. So we haven't seen much additional third-party testing, but it sounds like it is, in fact, a problem. So you might want to pause updates if you have a device you think may be affected, and you can check that list of 21 tested devices if you want to just do a double check what you have. Up next, Tom's Hardware picked up on AMD's new RX 7400 GPU that was stealthily launched, and this one pretty interesting because there's no need for a power connector. AMD's spec page details a 28 CU RX 7400 with 64 ROPs, so this is a previous generation. It's got 1792 stream processors and a GPU power listed as, quote, up to 43 watts. This means that the RX 7400 can be made by partners without PCIe power connectors. It is capable of slot-only draw, and that makes it useful in certain use cases where you don't want a power connector, don't have one, or your ultra-low form factor or small form factor. This also makes it easier to cool and therefore smaller. It may be deployable on a low-profile card for those small form factor builds. The card is an 8GB model with GDDR6 on a 128-bit wide memory interface. The memory speed is anemic here. It's 10.8 gigabits per second, and the bandwidth is only 173 gigabytes per second. For reference, the previous AMD RX 7600 is a 32 CU unit, so it's up from 28 here. That still has 64 ROPs, but it's got 2048 stream processors, 8 gigabytes still, except at 18 gigabits per second. So that's a big difference, and that yields a memory bandwidth of 288 gigabytes per second rather than 173. So the biggest impact is in memory bandwidth. It looks like this is going to be an OEM-heavy solution. We're not sure to what extent this will be released in the sort of DIY ported out market, but this one I'm interested in, again, because of the lack of a power connector. I know that's kind of like, it seems like a niche, but a lot of people are really interested in it. There's not a lot of them these days. The 5050 went with power connector, so we'll try and get one of these in as well. Up next, Intel may be getting a sort of a bailout. Basically, there's a purchase in place, potentially, from two parties. One is the US government, and then the other one is SoftBank. And Intel's had a hell of a couple weeks here. They've had a lot of ups and downs. There's the laying off lots and lots of people, canceling and pausing projects. And then the US president said that Intel's CEO should resign and is conflicted. Then the stock plummeted after that. And then the CEO met with the president a couple days later, and the president said that the CEO is a success, and then the stock skyrocketed. And now there's talk of a potential 10% purchase by the US government of Intel, and also SoftBank wants to put $2 billion into Intel. So it's been a roller coaster for Intel. SoftBank Group Corporation will invest $2 billion into Intel. The Tokyo-based investment holding firm and the Silicon Valley-based chip producer put out a joint press release which stated, quote, SoftBank Group Corp, Tokyo 9984, and Intel Corporation today announced their signing of a definitive securities purchase agreement under which SoftBank will make a $2 billion investment in Intel common stock, end quote. The press release also mentioned that SoftBank has agreed to pay $23 per share. According to Fool.com, SoftBank owns approximately 90% of rival chip designer ARM Holdings following its partial IPO in 2023. It had briefly attempted to sell its ARM ownership to NVIDIA for $40 billion in what was eventually squashed, and what would have led to an unbelievable monopoly for NVIDIA. Hedging its bets in the space, SoftBank also reportedly owns a 0.04% stake in NVIDIA, which doesn't sound like much, but Fool.com reported that this amounts to $1.5 billion, which sounds like a lot, and then you remember that NVIDIA's market cap is $4 trillion. And now it doesn't sound like so much anymore. SoftBank has also reportedly invested around $330 million into TSMC. That's right, we live in a dystopian cyberpunk hellscape where a large investment group is slowly taking over small pieces, and in some cases large pieces, of every single major chip producer or designer in the space. It's just, it really seems like a storyline from cyberpunk. Just a little bit earlier in the timeline. Piggybacking off of this news, on August 18th, Bloomberg reported that the, quote, Trump administration is in discussions to take a stake of about 10% in Intel Corp, a move that could see the U.S. become the beleaguered chip maker's largest shareholder, end quote. According to the publication, the U.S. government's plan would, quote, convert grants made under the U.S. Chips and Science Act into equity, end quote. And they're citing confidential sources there from Bloomberg. Bloomberg elaborated with, quote, the federal government is considering a potential investment in Intel that would involve converting some or all of the company's grants from the Chips Act into equity, end quote. Intel was set to receive up to $10.9 billion in grants. This amounts to roughly 10% of Intel's market capitalization, which is currently evaluated at $103 billion. This was contingent on the company meeting certain milestones related to its U.S. semiconductor manufacturing expansion. And shedding more light into the logistics of the U.S. government taking a stake in Intel, Bloomberg wrote, quote, using CHIPS Act money for an Intel stake would mean the chip maker isn't necessarily getting a bigger government infusion than expected, possibly just one that's on a faster timeline, end quote. And as a reminder, Intel already received $8 billion under the Biden administration at the end of 2024, and that was part of the CHIPS Act funding. On August 19th, U.S. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick spoke with CNBC and elaborated on the idea, stating, quote, we should get an equity stake for our money. So we'll deliver the money, which was already committed under the Biden administration. We'll get equity in return for it, get a good return for the American taxpayer instead of just giving grants away. We should get benefits for the economics that we put out, end quote. Now, it's rare for the U.S. government to take a partial stake in a private company. Situations like that are typically reserved for times of economic turmoil from the research we've done on this story, such as, for example, during the 2008 financial crisis, where the government bailed out banks, automakers, and insurance companies. If this were to happen here, it would represent a significant departure for federal policymakers. Now, all that said, looking at this from the perspective of the U.S., one of the main reasons Intel will probably be kept alive even if it's failing in some capacity is because it is the U.S.'s only option for high-end bleeding-edge silicon fabrication. It's not like quite up to TSMC right now, but it's the closest chance they've got. So if you look at it from the U.S. government's perspective, they're probably seeing it as a national security situation, and taking equity for that injection. From what we've seen, we're not experts on this, so do your own research if you really care, but we looked around a bit, and that does seem to be uncommon with those exceptions noted earlier, so that would be different, but Intel is definitely a major asset, and that's probably why there's that interest there. Up next, NVIDIA. As we previously reported in our Black Market documentary, President Trump has expressed interest in letting NVIDIA sell Blackwell-based AI chips to China.
I wouldn't make a deal with that, although it's possible I'd make a deal, a somewhat enhanced in a negative way Blackwell. In other words, take 30% to 50% off of it.
According to Reuters, NVIDIA has been quick to act and is working on a Blackwell-based chip designed for the Chinese market. It would reportedly be superior to the H20, which NVIDIA recently got permission to sell to China back in July for a 15% cut going to the U.S. government. That was the only chip that was exempted from the existing bans. And in the news, citing unnamed sources, Reuters reported that the new chip will be called the B30A, or Blackwell 30A. Now, of course, we have our own additional sources, and so we poked around. We were able to get the full name of the chip. The full name of the chip is going to be the NVIDIA Blackwell B30A
Super Duper Advanced
Edition. That's the full name. I mean, that's what... Yeah, they already have the super cards. It only makes sense. According to the publication, it, quote, will use a single die design likely to deliver half the raw computing power of the more sophisticated dual die configuration in NVIDIA's flagship B300 accelerated card, end quote. Reuters noted that the designs for the chip aren't finalized, but that NVIDIA still, quote, hopes to deliver samples to Chinese clients for testing as early as next month, end quote. All right, that is it for hardware news this week. For the recap, thank you for watching. As always, subscribe for more. If you haven't seen it, check out the Black Market documentary video on our channel, or you can go to store.gamersnexus.net still if you'd like to grab one of the backer packs that has some additional rewards and which will receive the USB keys that we're distributing with the full movie file on them. So we're still working out how to do that exactly. I've got some pretty good leads and ideas on it. We'll make a whole video about that too, because it'll be kind of fun. So you can grab one of those still on the store. If you want an individual item like this t-shirt or the glassware or similar, you can grab those on the store separately, and those will remain available individually. It's just the digital stuff is only in the packs. All right, thanks for watching. Subscribe for more, and we'll see you all next time.